Good morning, everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Imagine waking up to a brand new day. The sun's shining, the coffee's brewing, and, well, if you're anything like me, your very first thought is tackling the day completely on your own terms. But almost immediately, boom, you run into rules, instructions, and expectations. Today, we're exploring a deeply ingrained quirk of human nature, why we instinctively want to do the exact opposite of what we're told.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever been faced with a sign telling you not to push a big red button, and suddenly, it is literally the only thing in the entire world you want to do? That irresistible urge? It's not just you being stubborn. It's actually a fundamental psychological reflex we all share, and it secretly dictates a massive chunk of our daily decisions. Turns out, there's solid science behind this morning reflex, going all the way back to psychologist Jack Brehm in 1966. He coined the theory of psychological reactance. It's basically this unpleasant motivational arousal that pops up when we experience a threat to or a loss of our free behaviors. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that we don't just idly want freedom. The actual loss of it is motivationally arousing. It creates this intense internal counterforce.
Section 1. The urge to rebel.
From the very minute we start our day, we hit this communication problem. It's perfectly illustrated by the boomerang effect. Think of a literal boomerang. When an authority figure pushes way too hard to restrict a behavior, the reaction just snaps right back in the opposite direction. The most straightforward form of reactance is just doing the restricted thing to get that freedom back. If you tell me I absolutely cannot have a second cup of coffee before my commute, you know what? My brain instantly decides I have to have it, no question. But let's toss other people into the mix. Look at the classic 1968 La Tenney and Darley smoke room experiment. When participants were sitting alone in a room that started filling with smoke, 75% reported it. Makes sense, right? But check out what happens when they were placed with two non-reactive people. The reporting rate completely plummeted to just 10%. The social implication of others not reacting completely suppressed the subject's natural urge to act. It's wild how powerful external social cues are in dictating whether we rebel or comply.
Section 2. Parenting and Reverse Psychology. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is, well, let's follow my morning right to the breakfast table. I'm dealing with a notoriously stubborn toddler who just refuses to eat. If I take the direct approach and command, "Eat your salad," their reactance flares right up. Their freedom is threatened, so they refuse. But look at the reverse psychology approach. You know what? This salad is disgusting. I'm going to eat it all myself. Parents playfully weaponize a child's need for independence all the time. By belittling the desired habit, you turn a totally boring vegetable into this highly coveted, forbidden treasure.
Here's another incredibly relatable tactic from the research. If you compare a desired habit adversely against something else, it suddenly becomes super appealing. By telling a kid, "Ugh, doing homework before playtime is so boring," you trigger that rebellious streak. Suddenly, they want to pick up their books just to prove you wrong and assert their own autonomy. It's kind of genius.
But before we go thinking we've totally hacked parenting, there's a stern warning from experts about teenagers. As kids grow into teens, their reactance hits an absolute peak because they're seeking peer individuation. But as Susan Rigetti notes, older kids can sense manipulation a mile away. Psychologist John Gottman adds that these strategies just become confusing, dishonest, and honestly, they rarely ever work on adolescents. Reverse psychology is a tool that quickly becomes transparent and useless as they get older.
Section 3. Reverse marketing and sales.
So I leave the house, jump on my morning commute, start browsing my phone, and I realize something. Advertisers are using these exact same tricks on us adults. You might see an ad with a bold statement, like, "We definitely don't recommend buying this jacket." This is reverse marketing. Firms deliberately deviate from traditional norms to disrupt our expectations. By telling us not to buy, they stimulate deep curiosity and completely bypass those ad-weary defenses we all walk around with.
In academia, they call this strategic self-anticonformity, or SSA. Compare a traditional, overly polished ad to that famous Domino's pizza campaign where they openly just admitted their old pizza tasted bad. This self-deprecatory message built massive authenticity. We naturally perceive self-critical messages as way more honest. It builds a stronger emotional connection and cuts right through the noise of a totally saturated market.
Section 4. Tricking your own brain.
So I finally arrive at work, and almost instantly, I get hit with this sudden, overwhelming wave of anxiety about a big presentation I have to give later today. It got me thinking, if marketers can trick my brain, can I use these concepts to trick my own brain out of anxiety? Let's look at the timeline of anticipatory anxiety. Hours before, the fear of messing up starts. 30 minutes out, physical tension builds. 5 minutes before, excessive sweating starts. It's a vicious loop. Desperately wanting to be calm ironically creates way more physical tension. But at the event, paradoxically wishing for the exact outcome you fear can actually interrupt this entire cycle.
Well, digging into this, I found this brilliant concept from psychiatrist Viktor Frankl called Paradoxical Intention. Basically, it means replacing the object of our desire, like desperately wanting to be calm, with a statement that seems completely contradictory to common sense. We literally tried to deliberately wish for the very thing we're terrified of. Frankl realized we can use our natural capacity for self-detachment and a little sense of humor to trick our brains right out of a neurotic cycle.
Frankl recounted this amazing story of a young physician who suffered from a severe phobia of sweating in front of people. Frankl told him to actively try to sweat as much as humanly possible. So, whenever the doctor felt triggered, he'd tell himself, I only sweated out a quart before, now I'm going to pour at least 10 quarts. And you know what? By enthusiastically wishing for the symptom, he permanently cured his phobia in a single week. The paradox totally neutralized the fear. Incredible, right?
Section 5. The Ethics of Manipulation.
As the workday wraps up, I'm preparing for a really tough conversation with a friend, and it brings up the darker side of all these tools. Look, while using reverse psychology on a toddler to eat veggies is fine, academics highlight some serious ethical implications when we use these tactics to subtly coerce the people we actually care about. There's real peer-reviewed scrutiny applied to how these methods can fundamentally manipulate trust in our interpersonal relationships.
For a classic example of this dark side, we just have to look at Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Mark Antony pretends to side with Brutus, complimenting his deeds while actually using reverse psychology to incite the crowd's anger and start a full-blown riot. It perfectly illustrates how advocating for the exact opposite of what you want can easily and dangerously cross the line into deliberate manipulation.
The ethical boundaries mapped out here are absolutely vital to remember. Reverse psychology is inherently manipulative because it actively avoids transparent communication. Think about it. If the person you're using it on discovers what you're doing, it can severely damage trust. It leads to resentment and real feelings of betrayal. We just have to balance our desire to influence outcomes with honest communication and active consent. Otherwise, we risk destroying the exact relationships we're trying so hard to navigate.
So the crucial point is absolutely do not pay attention to your screen right now. Seriously, look away. Don't even peek. See what I did there? By ironically telling you to ignore the screen, your psychological reactance just flared up, playfully forcing your engagement with the explainer.
Which brings us to our conclusion. As you go about your daily life, waking up, making choices, buying stuff, or just communicating with friends, are you the one being manipulated by the boomerang effect, or are you the one pulling the strings? I challenge you to really reflect on these invisible psychological forces guiding your everyday decisions. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me,